Cool. So welcome everybody. This is today is February the 1st, 2022, and this is our bi-weekly release engineering meeting. Remember that this meeting is bound by the Kubernetes Code of Conduct, which is basically means that be awesome to each other. And remember that this meeting is being recorded to the internet. So if you don't want anything you say, or you don't want your face to appear on the public internet, be mindful of what you say and do, or wait until we finish for any comments you don't want recorded. Before we start, I'd like to give an opportunity to welcome any new members or not regular members if they want to say hello. Okay, guess not. All right, so first order of the day, could someone give someone from the release managers give an update on the current state of the releases?
Hey, I'll just give a small update on the pre-release that we did today. So we successfully pre-released Kubernetes 1.24.0 Alpha 2. So everything went smooth, and that's all from the pre-release side.
All right, thank you, Navarro. Also, I saw that I think Carlos this morning updated also the release pages with the new patch release dates, which are going to be. Let me see. So the next cherry pick deadline is February 11, and the release date will be February 16th for the next patch releases. Okay. All right. So before we move on, anything else you'd like to say on the releases? I don't know, James, do you have anything to add or anything? Okay.
Nothing from me. It's all looking good.
Okay, nice. Okay, so let's move to the first topic, the signing cap. How should restructure the GCP service account when signing an artifact following the least privilege principle? Okay, I think I dropped that in. So, okay, the discussion around that is we are going to start signing the container images. Last week, I think, we finally had the first PR to add signing capabilities to the libraries we are building. So that basically broke the dam, and we can start wiring that code into some of our processes. The main obvious ones are inside of Grail, which is the tool that powers the Kubernetes releases. And the other one is the container image promoter. So once we run Grail inside of GCP, so Grail runs inside of a Google Cloud Build job, and then that one has a service account. So the idea here would be to have a secondary service account, which the building process can impersonate just for the signing, and then go back to continue the build. This is we've been discussing several methods. If we can do this, we believe that it could be the best way to do it. But if anyone else has another approach or suggestions, we can hear them out.
I have a question about the signature of the artifact in general, because basically all the artifact that's distributed between different GCP projects, which means, are we moving all the artifact inside the same GC project and we use one service account for build and another one for signing, or do we want to maintain that separation? Because right now, when KREL run a cloud build job, I think that question, Sasha asked the question yesterday, KREL use the default service account. It's the service agent of cloud build.
Mm-hmm.
So do we switch that to use a dedicated service account, or so we can use the same service account for build and signing, or are we doing like every artifact per project, which means 6 service account for artifact management?
Okay, so at least from the way I see it is, we would continue running the build with the current user account. And so the service account that currently runs the build would be the same one. And then when we get to the point of signing, it will impersonate another one, which has the permissions to do the signatures, and then switch back and continue the build with the regular building account. That's when building. And then my guess is that, I just started looking at this yesterday, but my guess is the artifact promoter and they would be kind of the same thing, and also the image promoter. So I mean the image and artifact promoter would do the same thing. So they will run, they would do the promotion with one service account and then switch back only to sign the artifacts again, the images and the files, and then return to finish the process with a regular account. This is a current approach, but any other suggestions are welcome. The idea is that if you have, so you will be running, let's say that you have a vulnerability in the code that releases the artifacts, right? If possible, you would want to have that if someone were to take over the account that runs the build, you would want to have that restricted as much as possible, as not to be able to do more impersonated the signing account, so to block them as soon as you can. It still has the permissions to impersonate it, but we can separate them and silo them a little bit more. But any other, if anyone thinks of another architecture, we can certainly do it.
I don't know how much work would it cost to add this to this K8s.io scripts?
Technically, nothing complicated. I think it's like 2 or 3.5 of code. It's just bandwidth on my side. I don't have too much this week, man. I will make that happen this week. I mean, I want to take up that this week.
Cool, thanks. Do you think it would be possible to do it for every or for other cloud build shops as well? Because, for example, I have a different project which is also using the staging buckets for pushing container images, and I'm considering to sign those as well by using our existing tooling afterwards.
I think we have only one service account for all the staging.
Oh, okay.
Projects. Yeah, we just have one for all the staging projects. I need to take a look, but I think we just have one service account we can use for impersonation. I also still have one question about specifically system packages. So I think 2 weeks I was talking about migrate, redefine the ownership of system packages from Google to the community. So I'm curious about the signature of those packages, because I think we still need to have a GPG for Debian and also another key for RPM, or do we want to drop that and do everything with Cosine?
Okay, so the system packages are signed by the signing process. So from what I understand is, Google has to sign them because they are signed by the same key that that signs other Google released software packages, and so we have to still rely on them. And that's on one side. Then on the other, as far as I build, and I am aware that the Sigstr infrastructure still doesn't sign Debian and RPM packages. So we couldn't use the same infrastructure for those. We can certainly help and to add that capability if no one is working on those yet. But there's still a long way to go for that. I mean, I don't know if you're aware of any advances on that front, Sasha, but I don't think there's been anything.
Yeah, I agree. I think we have to build the kubepkg infrastructure first before considering to sign them using cosign. I mean, in theory we could, but we also rely on the distribution of those artifacts by using app k8s.io and dep k8s.io, or no, app and rpm k8s.io, both subdomains which serve the GPG keys as well as the packages for the package managers.
Yeah, establishing all the whole repositories from outside, because there isn't one right now, or is it?
No, there's nothing currently from on the infrastructure side, because I asked to Stephen last time if we still need a GPG key, a new GPG key we need to present to the community. So I'm curious about, do we need to do a signing party for this between all the release managers, everyone just share is GPG key? Or do we use cosign to do that and basically announce to the community, oh, we deprecate the Google keys for the future releases and we use a new one in, I would say, 6 to 9 months?
Yeah, so I think before we do that, I would prefer taking on, for example, on the effort of finally achieving the Kubernetes delegation of Sigstr, which is basically Sigstr is going to delegate a set of keys for us, which can be validated. From that key, we can issue smaller keys, smaller in the end of a hierarchical context, like one level below, to smaller projects, so that each project can sign their projects. And then, for example, we could issue one for KOps or another project that's a small project. I don't know, perhaps Sasha, you were talking about the other project that Sasha was talking about. They could get their own key, and those keys can be traced back and validated all the way up to Sigstr and the full CR root that delegates them. So that is going to take some effort to achieve. It's been going on and lots of discussions on the Sigstr side. And once we have that, I would feel we would be in a better position to try to do the signing of the package, the system packages.
Okay, that sounds good to me.
Okay, and the other is, well, seeing at your question there, the breakdown per artifact type. So the container images, just to do a quick recap, are going to be signed twice. Once at build time, then we promote those, and they're going to be signed again when the artifact releases them. That's the first one. And the same thing for the binaries. We are probably going to sign them when we build them in staging. And then when we at release time, we're going to verify those signatures and then resign them for public consumption, let's so to say. And those signatures, the signatures for the container images are going to be stored in the registry, and the signatures for the binaries are going to be stored side by side with them, just with a .sig extension or something like that. I don't know if that made sense, or any questions?
When are we starting to do this?
We already started. So last week, Carlos managed to overcome some of the limitations that cosign still has to exporting their code as a public consumable library, and the signing code is already in. Sasha started working on wiring that code into Krell for signing at stage, And I spoke with some, so we have lots of people that have been enthusiastic about that. Nabron took over the signing of the artifacts, and BJ, who is here today visiting us, he is handling the verification code. And so, and I started yesterday to see to see the image promoter code. So it's still going. If anyone is interested in helping any of those efforts, which is currently the way we split the work, you're more than welcome. Any questions, doubts, whatever, feel free to raise them, and yeah, we're happy to help. And I think we are going to the way I really like the way we split the work, and I think we're going to see results pretty soon.
Great. I'll catch up with the progress. Thanks, Sasha. I have been MIA for different reasons, but today is my comeback. I will tell you more details later, but yeah, thanks for the update.
Okay. So if anyone, any other questions about the signing effort before we move to the next topic? All right, so let's move to the next one. So the next one is from Ben, multi-vendor container image hosting. So I saw this document flying around. I don't know if anyone wants to talk about this, or Ben is in the call. I don't think so.
Ben is not here, but I can talk for him.
Sure.
So basically, this is a proposal to build a NoCI proxy in front of the current KGCR IO that will help reduce the cost burden for container image distribution. I don't think there's a lot to say in that proposal because it is experimental. We want to basically, we have a very snippet of code we want to deploy and try to see how this is help us to better serve those container images. So in the first phase, it's just a proxy between KGCR IO and everyone trying to download the container images. In the second phase, we want to, improve the image promoter to push the image layers to a S3 bucket. And we want to make that step blocking for the release process, in the release process. So basically what's happening is before even we do the promotion, we look at all the image layers of the containers we want to release and we push them to a S3 bucket. Once we do that, the proxy will redirect every request coming for any Docker client based on the IP address to either the default GCI.io or to the S3 bucket inside Amazon. The two main advantage about this is the first thing is cost efficient because the client doesn't have to go outside internet to try to download, and it's also cost efficient for us because basically the egress traffic stay inside Amazon network. So that's the proposal of this document. And later, if possible, we can apply the same principle for other cloud providers, which means we can have objects, storage resources inside different cloud providers like Azure or Alibaba Cloud and stuff like that, and we can apply the same process. So I think Ben was interested to get feedback from the promotion side of the proposal.
And one of the biggest things with this is cutting over to the new URL. So foo.kates.io or registry.kates, whatever we decide on, that's going to be the big challenging part. And everything past that is an implementation detail to the user, right? So once we stand this proxy up, we can first just have it send everything right to GCR. And then from there, everything is implemented upon, the user has no idea what's really happening. But getting everyone to use the new registry proxy URL is going to be something we should start soon.
Okay, and so for this would involve like a new project to develop the proxy or something off the shelf?
We have a new project already set up somewhere in Kubernetes 6 organization. So it's not really it's already, I need to finish the deployment this week. If everything goes great for me, I'm supposed to finish the deployment this week. But the main concern is how we basically change the behavior of the image promoter to push the image layers to S3.
I mean, it's feasible. The only thing that concerns me is, so what about scaling this effort to other providers? So would be so if we were, for example, go to another one of the public clouds and they would show interest in having their own mirror for this, whose responsibility would it be to actually pull the artifacts or push the artifacts? Would be
that's now how we need to basically clarify the relationship between CNCF and the cloud provider. If I take Amazon, basically Amazon found different Amazon account. I made a request for one, I think 2 weeks ago. So Amazon pay for that account, which means we are responsible for that aspect. We can apply the same principle to every cloud provider. We don't have to basically spread those image layers to 10 and 50 cloud providers. We can just pick one, be responsible for it, and ask to the cloud provider to fund it. If we do that, which means we are responsible, Gates Infra or Prerelease can be responsible for those different infrastructure over the cloud provider, and we have full management of those different mirrors of image layers.
Yeah, I meant more beyond the actual cost of the hosting. What I meant was more in the whose responsibility would be to actually the mirroring infrastructure. So once we release the artifacts, we need to start copying those, and then who would manage that? Would that fall?
Can be Gates Infra, can be SIG, can be Raise Engineering. We can have shared responsibility. It's a policy we can put in place with the SIGs.
Because what I'm thinking is, so let's say that for now we have Amazon and one, you can handle it easily, right? But then when you start having more mirrors, how do you ensure mirrors are up to date and that copying actually happens?
Yeah, because I see what you're asking. The content registry doesn't have a notion of index. Exactly. So we need to be able to say we are out of sync between the different mirrors, which means
we could do like some sort of code that does the verification I mean, I still haven't read the proposal, but
we can basically generate an index per mirror and try to make a diff and say, oh, if there's a delta between, let's say, GCI.io and Amazon, we have a problem. We need to look into it. Basically, Cluster Lifecycle did something similar. They have the job running against GCI.io that basically pass the manifest and ensure those manifests are compliant but not up to date. So we can basically reuse the same mechanism and say, okay, we have a job running against Azure, ECR, and GCR, and we say, okay, this is the list of the container images we expect, basically the tag we expect on the different mirror. And we say, okay, if there's a delta, every time we do the check, we just generate an alert and say, oh, this is out of sync. You need to take a look.
Yeah, because what I don't know, the way I do it is that we could do some sort of an inventory of the mirrors, pass and check, and if something is off, maybe simply not target the mirror for a specific release, or maybe if it goes beyond an acceptable label, maybe taking it off completely, right?
I'm so thinking we can basically use provenance or signature to do that verification.
Could be.
Because if we have provenance, we can just make trying to understand, oh, if there's a difference between provenance inside ACR and provenance, we generate provenance per mirror and just try to see what's the difference. And basically, if there's a difference, we raise an alert like, oh, something is going on. We need to take a look.
Okay, so I'm hearing like two things. So the first one is, I believe that copying should be, so you were saying that making it like blocking of the release process.
Yeah.
I think it should be actually offline, the copying. So we release to a central location and then have the mirror start copying. But I don't know what the current idea was. Just do it at promotion time.
Yeah, but the problem is the IP redirection. Mm-hmm. So if we say we release 125 on day 0, the same day someone is trying to pull 125 coming from Amazon, we will be redirected to the S3.
But it's not. So the idea is not to make it smart enough to say to do some discrimination on the version, for example. It would simply dispatch everything, all of the traffic to depending on the IP.
Yep, that's the idea. So basically, we say, oh, if you come from Amazon, go to stay inside Amazon and try to get that image layer inside Amazon, which means we need to push the image layers before even do the promotion. So those image layers are inside the S3 bucket. Everyone inside Amazon, on Azure, on whatever cloud provider we have is sure it can pull those images, and we do the release process. And in the release process, we say, okay, this is now pushed in the different mirrors. We can do the promotion.
Okay.
And just so it's clear, the idea is to keep GCR as the source of truth for serving the manifest. Yeah, and everything else will just be like S3 compatible blob storage, right? And everyone has S3 compatible blob storage, right? So at the end of the day, when we decide to span this out, the big focus on AWS here is it's costing the most money.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? We're trying to cut down on that spend as soon as we can.
Yeah, I understand that if we manage that, if we manage to shift the Amazon traffic to an internal bucket, it would simply plummet, the cost would plummet. My concern over this side is that we would be extending the time of the release process, and then we would be kind of dependent on third parties, which I don't like that much. And so we already have. So if you see the troubles we've been having forever with the release process, they always happen because of a network flake contacting someone else. So I would rather have make the official release and then kick another process that starts doing the copies elsewhere, because that way, even if it fails for some reason, or we have we have an integrity problem of an artifact elsewhere, we can still go round robin and keep refreshing those. So I would see more benefits to those. But well, this is my opinion, but I can dump it in.
Okay, so what you're saying is we can basically trying to push those image layer in the cloud provider, but if that fails, we still continue the image promotion process.
No, I mean, just decouple it totally.
Okay.
So
Okay.
once we promote it, we can, even before the promoter it finishes, we can kick it off in parallel and have the copying process start copying the releases that have already been released successfully.
Okay.
And if it fails for whatever reason, it can still retry and make sure we have a process that keeps mirrors up to date. I think that would be the best way to do it. But I see lots of comments here on the document. I still have to go through those to see.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the reason Ben wanted to do it this way was it's kind of like it handles the concept of a lock for us, right? Where if the other clouds are published to first, and then once it's published to GCR, then it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like we can, consistently say that it is everywhere. Exactly. But if that's the consensus that we're not comfortable doing that, we can always build that logic into the proxy, right? Like if it's not in S3, then we can fall back and check if it's in GCR in that weird middle period or something. That's something we can add there.
Or another way to tackle that would be to simply redefine what constitutes the end of the release. So let's say that today for example, today we send the announcement once we have the artifacts in GCR. We could delay that. I mean, I don't know when people start consuming it because there's lots of automation behind it, and we publish markers and things like that. But we could try to declare the release complete once we ensure that artifacts are copied to where we want to see them. That's one.
Okay.
But yeah, okay. That makes sense.
Is the marker of when a release is complete when we update the stable flag in GCR, that text file, or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen some tools that rely on that, and even they start pulling things even before we have some of the artifacts out there, or if we send the announcement where. But yeah, it makes sense. Of all the proposals that have been flying around, this has been like the one that makes more sense, and it has like extremely geeky value to contribute. So okay.
Oh,
right.
I forget. There's another alternative I think we're trying to look in. So it is basically be able to use managed services from container registries like Amazon ECR, Azure Container Registry. We can also take a look into that, trying to basically say, I think Stephen started to work on something like this, be able to push the container images to something that is not GCR. This is also another alternative.
Artifact registry.
Yeah, artifact registry is more like something we need to do at some point because GCR is deprecated. So this is something we need to look into it probably next year.
Yeah, and maybe handle those at the same time. I mean.
Yeah, that's the entire point of this proxy is basically something that prevents the community and the downstream to be able to push no matter what the implementation we have in terms of container image management or in terms of artifact management in general. So this is completely opaque for downstream. So they can just download and we can do whatever we want in the behind the scene.
Yeah, it sounds really well.
I'm in the camp of, I really wanted us to use ECR proper, like an actual container registry. There's a lot of pros and cons for each. The big one is just attack surface. If we have a single source of truth for the manifest in GCR, we cut down on a ton of possible attacks out there because the tooling in the manifest takes care of the digest, right? Like the layers are all digested and signed, and like the tooling will know if it's getting incorrect things from different, blobs. The downside of that is we are going to have to handle replication ourselves because that is what a registry would do for us. So we will have to publish to multiple S3 regions, or else we'll have to incur the region to region transfer costs, whatever the hell that is. And yeah, there's a lot to talk about still. I know Ben's eager to get this moving. I think we all are. We have our SIGK infra meeting tomorrow afternoon, which would be good for you to come to, Adolfo, and anyone else interested in this.
If it's happening, because I'm not sure I'm gonna make it. I will try to get someone running that tomorrow if I'm not available.
Yeah, I can take over running it just to have this conversation or no.
Okay.
So if you can make it, Adolfo, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll lead it. And in the meanwhile, if others from Prerelease have any other comments, or we can discuss it, and I can bring our thoughts to the meeting as well. But it looks like it's really happening, and I'm really happy about this, to see this. Okay. Any other thoughts or questions about this? The effort. Okay. So thanks for bringing this for discussion here, and I'll see you tomorrow in the meeting. Okay, so and our final topic from Leo, release team shadow applicant analysis tool. Would you like to give some introduction to that?
Yeah, so I think 2 weeks ago I proposed the idea, we talked about it in this release team meeting, that it would be good to have like some more transparency who is applying to Prerelease, to a release team. And overall, I got positive feedback, and I quickly also put like a POC in place to create some diagrams and so on. And now the question would be, how should we proceed from here? So should we, because from the discussion I got that for 1.25, we would like to have like some like analysis. We also want to update the application form and so on. So there should be, until then, some tool in place to generate charts and stuff like that. So the question is, should we donate the repository that I quickly put together, or should we create a new one? Should I create a thread to discuss this in Prerelease?
So could you give us a little bit of an introduction of what's in the repository so far?
Yeah, so currently, so it's we discussed it. I think it's also in the notes a couple of weeks back, but essentially it's like 2 parts. So there's like some general analysis. So for example, like where are the applicants from and so on. So what they enter in the application form. And there's also some basically just transformation filtering of the applicants. So it's a bit easier to go through all the applicants. So if for example, CI Signal gets 40 applicants, you can use the tool to only get basically the ones that are applying for your team. And then it's also doing some sorting. For example, if this applicant is been previously on the release team or if it's entirely new. So it's also supporting basically the process, how we build the team. And so these 2 parts.
Okay. So it seems to me that donating the repo would be the way to go. Especially because it will allow you to quickly iterate on the project and then donate it all in one go. So I don't know if you're. I was looking yesterday for the process to donating a repository. If you're not familiar, we can chat later today, and we can go over the process.
So last week I opened an issue to the native repository for the CI Signal dashboard project, but this is not related to this one. Yeah, I mean, maybe it makes sense to like build something from the ground up and then use Go, for example, and then we already can integrate it to I don't know, to release repository. or I don't know what the preferences are.
I don't know. So my suggestion here would be, if you could you do like a more extended presentation of the project during SIG release next week?
Yep.
So that we can understand and I see that Jeremy was really involved into the discussion here, so maybe he can give better input as well.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good.
Awesome. Okay, cool. No, thank you for running this, Leo. Thanks.
No problem.
So any questions for Leo about the web application? And okay. All right. So I think that was everything on the agenda for today. So if anyone has anything to add or any questions before we go?
See you in tomorrow's Kite Infra meeting.
Yeah, we'll see you there. All right. So thanks everyone for being here, and hopefully we'll be seeing each other soon and frequently because of the signing effort and on the Kate Infra meeting. See you around.
Thanks. See ya. Bye.
Bye.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.